Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Rohini Sudhakar from Department of Continuing and Adult Education and Extension Work of SNDT Women's University. Today we are going to discuss about understanding the concept of community. I would like to mention that this module is written by Dr. Ajit Kumar of Matru Seva Sangh Institute of Social Work, Nagpur. So, we will see the concept of community. Interaction among people takes place at 4 levels: individual, group, community and society. All these levels are interconnected and interdependent, but yet each is different from the other. Now, we will see what are the objectives of today's module. At the end of this module, the learners will be able to describe the nature of community. That is one. Second objective is to explain community as a system. Third one is to inform what is community in the Indian context. To describe communities in the context of social change is the fourth objective, and the fifth objective is to use the understanding of the community to frame effective measures of intervention for human betterment. Now, we will see what is the nature of community. Community as one level of human interaction is different from the other 3 levels. When we talk of community, we are talking of people in a group. Can this concept be applied to any group of people? The answer is no. For a group of people to form a community, the following 3 criteria must be fulfilled. First, geographical community. The group must live in the same geographical area. It could be in a village, in a rural area or a neighborhood in an urban area. Second criteria is functional community. May not be based on geographically, but it may belong to the same category group. For example, backward caste or to the same occupations, for example, teachers, lawyers, nurses, etc., having the same characteristics or problems. Members of this group must share some common social and economic features. For example, people of the same linguistic or religious or caste background having in the same geographical area, and also they should share similar occupational and income characteristics. For example, people living together in a slum in an urban area are occupationally similar because a majority of them must be working in the unorganized sector. Similarly, a majority of the people in a village community share common occupational characteristics because they are in some way linked to agriculture based occupations. This group of people, because of the above 2 features, develop a sense of cohesiveness and common identification over a period of time. This psychological we feeling emerging from a shared living is the most significant marker of community consciousness. When a group of people fulfill these 3 criteria, then they form a community, not otherwise. So, community we will see as a system. Community as a system must now be clear that a community is a complex social structure. To understand this complexity, one needs to look at community as a system. What is a system? A community is a system because a community has many parts. Each part has a role to play. Each part is functionally linked to the other part, and these parts fulfilling their respective roles together lead to a totality which is much larger than the respective individual parts. A system is a live entity. It's active. It is in continuous process of functioning and creation. The subsystem of community we'll see is to study and understand the many different parts of a community. One can divide it into following 3 subsystems. 1. Community as an economic subsystem. As an economic subsystem, occupation, income, expenditure, ownership of assets and infrastructure of the community are the 5 key aspects to be studied. We will see them one after another. Occupation. Occupation are of two types, primary and secondary. This classification needs to be understood in two ways. The first with the reference to numbers and the second with respect to earnings. Occupation with reference to numbers, we will see now. Occupations engaging a majority of the people of a community are referred to as the primary occupation of that community. For example, agriculture is the primary occupation of a village community because a majority of the people living in village are working either as cultivators or as laborers. Secondary occupations are those occupations in which fewer numbers of people are economically engaged in a village. For example, one or two persons will work as barber or a carpenter or an ironsmith or a potter. Occupation with reference to income. In case of an individual or a household with more than one occupation, the definition would change. Primary occupation would be that occupation which brings in the largest share of their income. For example, in a marginal farmer household, one member may be cultivating a small patch of dry land while other members may be working as laborers. In such a case, wages earned from labor may be more than the income derived from growing a crop. Labor work because the primary occupation for this household or farming the secondary occupation. Income. Income refers both to the sum of money received and the mode of receiving it. Sum of money received. From the sum received, we can ascertain whether the household is poor or not. To identify such a household, government has fixed a below poverty line, that is BPL criteria, and based on this criteria estimated a certain number of households to be poor. This criteria and estimate is important because households falling below the threshold level are the most vulnerable households requiring interventions. Mode of receiving income. The mode of receiving will differ both from occupation to occupation and when it received. A cultivator will earn only after she or he sells in the market, while a laborer may receive wages on a daily or weekly or even on an annual basis. A petty vendor living in a slum in a town will earn only if he or she goes out to sell, and this may not be possible all days. Understanding the mode of receiving tells us whether the earning is regular or not. If irregular, then the household is more vulnerable. Occupation is linked to income. A household working in the organized sector is more likely to have a regular income than one working in the unorganized sector. Regular income means stability, less vulnerabilities. Expenditure. Identifying the pattern of expenditure of a household enables us to assess the degree of their vulnerability, for which the percentage of expenditure for meeting the primary needs of a household need to be estimated. Food, clothing and shelter, that is roti, kapda, makan, are the primary needs of a household. The higher the percentage of expenditure a household incurs on meeting their primary needs, the greater will be their vulnerability. Ownership of assets. Assets refer to land, cattle, building, equipment, tools and any goods which help a household to increase production. The presence of a large number of vulnerable households in India is because of a highly skewed distribution of assets. A household without assets will find it difficult to educate their children, plan for a livelihood for them and meet family crisis situations. Many households over generations have improved their asset base. Community infrastructure. This aspect refers to the availability of facilities related to water, health, toilet, lanes, drainage, schooling, energy sources in the community, connectivity to both transport and communication, and to their effective usage by the community. Community as a political subsystem. The word political signifies power. Power is a defining element of a human society. It manifests itself in all aspects of human life and expresses itself in different forms. Power refers to human will, which expresses itself through both persuasion and coercion. The following are the two important features of power. Though not visible, it is real and manifests itself constantly in various forms. It is constantly changing. Human history is a changing narrative of societies, countries, nations and people rising to power and then ebbing away. How does one study the abstract concept of power in relation to a community? For this study, a learner needs to examine the power structure of the community. To examine this power structure, the following three questions need to be answered. 1. Who has power in the community? To identify where power is located in a community, one identifies the leaders of the community. Community leadership is of the following two types. Formal leaders. Formal leaders mean individuals holding positions in organizations. Identifying formal leaders is not difficult because listing out such organizations and their office bearers is possible. Informal leaders. Informal leaders refer to individuals not holding positions in organizations but yet are influential. Informal leaders may also be people who command respect due to their occupation or education. For example, priests, teachers, doctors, lawyers, etc. A community may have a few such individuals. How does one identify such individuals? One way is to ask community members to list out people in the community to whom they would go in case of emergencies. Picking out the common names from these lists and then eliminating the positions holders would lead us to the informal leaders of the community. Now, we will see what are the bases. Leadership emerges from human action and these actions have bases. The bases could be of different types. It could be belonging to a dominant caste, exercising power in the locality, or the high educational attainment or an individual belonging to an influential family or the ability to distribute patronage. Generally speaking, combination of these bases would lead to influence. How is power used? Power by its very nature can't remain static. It needs to be exercised constantly for it to grow. In the absence of these exercises, power tends to wane. Since community leaders do exercise their powers, then the question which arises is, whom does these exercises benefit? Is it for the larger good or for a smaller section of the people? For example, does a community leader exercises her or his power mostly for the benefit of his or her caste people or their families? In such cases, power becomes destructive and unsustainable in the long run. A power structure to be sustainable needs to articulate a larger vision. A vision to a large needs to be encompasses more and more vulnerable categories of people. The leadership needs to seriously address vulnerabilities common to the community such as problems of livelihood, schooling, health, drinking water and so on. Community as a social subsystem. Community as a social system encompasses the following aspects. Family and marriage. Broadly speaking, families are of three types: joint, nuclear and single parent. Marriages are of two types: arranged marriages, marriages by choice and a combination of the two. Now, we will see value system. Values mean the normative faith underlining human action and are of two types: universal and culture specific. Always speak the truth is a universal value. vegetarianism or non-vegetarianism is culture specific value. Religion and religious practices. The following two aspects are important: the practice of worship and the beliefs underlying them. Food practices. Food practices need to be studied from two perspectives: nutrition and the beliefs underlying them. Understand community in the context of India. Professor K.D. Gangad has pointed out that in the Indian context, one needs to include caste as a criteria in determining community boundaries. But this goes against the principle of territoriality, defining a community as mentioned in the second section. Caste has divided Indian society both horizontally and vertically. In the context of community, it is the horizontal division which is of greatest significance because it cuts across the territorial ties of people living together in a community. For example, the ties of caste bind people living in one village with their caste fellow people living in other village. Here, territory does not matter. This horizontal binding erodes away community consciousness of people living in one geographical or territorial area. In India, an individual and his or her family have deep binding caste ties. Marital ties are the key tie further cementing caste consciousness. These ties entail obligations and responsibilities on the individual and his or her family. A caste community excludes members from other caste. In contrast, a community based on geographical and territorial proximity, it is inclusive because it includes everyone living in the neighborhood. The 1952 Community Development Program was the first program of rural development launched by independent India, and it aimed at the betterment of all the people living in a village irrespective of their caste background. This aspect, as Professor A.R. Desai pointed, was a novel feature because it went against the traditional Indian caste and religious communities. Communities and social change. A community is not a constant entity. It is not static. Its nature changes over time. A community from the pre-industrial age is quite different from one belonging to the industrial or post-industrial age. This change was first conceptualized by the German sociologist Friedrich Tönnies, who used the concept of Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft to describe the two types of communities. Gemeinschaft is an individual born in this type of community completely assimilates the norm of this community. His or her sense of belonging to this community is an unquestionable fact of life. It is the community which determines the perception of the individual and their roles in life in a natural outcome of these perceptions and value systems. These communities belong to the pre-industrial age where social and occupational mobility was low and where agriculture and animal husbandry were the main occupations. These are traditional communities. Gesellschaft, in contrast, the Gesellschaft type of community is an associated one because individuals here engage with other individuals voluntarily and in pursuit of their own interests. Individuals here are bound together not by unquestioned perceptions of reality but by personal choice. For Tönnies, this society led to the mass society of rootless individuals. This community belonged to the industrial age where social and occupational mobility was high and a significant number of people were working in the industrial and service sectors of the economy. These are modern communities. Frame effective measures of intervention for human development. Now, we will see what kind of interventions one can have in the community. The understanding which we have gained from the above 5 sections should enable us to frame intervention measures. Below 4 steps have been outlined. First, identify the largest group requiring intervention. Second, decide on the vulnerability which needs to be addressed. Third, stepwise list out the intervention measures. Fourth, evaluate the effectiveness of the intervention measures. For example, we will take two examples. Example 1, profiling all the small children below the age of 6 in the community, that is the target group. Second, seeing that all such children in the community come to the Anganwadi, that is pre-primary school, and that their weight is appropriate to their age. So, we check their vulnerability. Home visits and coordinating with the Anganwadi is one of the intervention measures. Are all the listed children coming to the Anganwadi, is their body weight normal? This is a part of evaluation. We will take another example, example 2. Profiling all the boys and girls in the age group of 15 to 17 in the community, that is a target group, seeing that all of them successfully complete 10 years of schooling. So, that is the vulnerability part, and home visit, tutorials and coordinating with the local school authorities is the part of intervention measures. Have all the boys and girls in the 15 to 17 age group successfully completed their schooling as a part of evaluation. So, while concluding, let us sum up. From the above sections, we have learnt that for a group of people to be viewed as a community, it is essential that they fulfill 3 criteria. They must all live together in a locality or a neighborhood. They must share similar socio and economic characteristics. These two together must lead to the emergence of a we feeling among this group. A community can be viewed as a system further subdivided into economic, political and social subsystem. Caste communities is the living reality of India, but it goes against the conceptual definition of community because it builds up horizontal ties, eroding away the ties of territoriality. Communities are not static entities. Over time, they change from a communal entity to an associational entity. Our understanding of a community must lead to the framing of the following effective measures of intervention: identifying a target group, identifying their vulnerability, operationalizing the steps for intervention, and evaluating the intervention measures for their effectiveness. Thank you.